Welcome to Prime Time, a show for adults in the prime of life. I'm Susan Hoskins, the Executive Director at the Princeton Senior Resource Center. Today we're talking about long-term care, and my guests are Bathsheba Katz, who is the Vice President of Quality Initiatives for Merwick Care Center, and Ryan Wismer, the Administrator of the new Merwick Care Center. I wanted you both to come on because I know that the community has been talking for months about what the new Merwick was going to be like. And now that you have moved into the facility and you have residents there, I thought it would be a good time to talk about what the new Merwick is like. And so welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a
you.
privilege to be here.
So give us an introduction, Ryan, to Merwick. What's it like?
Well, the historical foundations are the Merwick of the past moving into the Merwick of the future. And when that decision was made that was going to happen, the building and the environment was obviously key, and the development of that has resulted in the facility that we have now, which is just, obviously fantastic. So it includes the people from the past that we had, the employees. It includes a completely new design concept in long-term care. So it's very exciting.
Great. Bathsheba, tell us a little bit about what the trends are in long-term care, because I think that the nursing home, what we used to call the nursing home that we remember our grandparents being in, it was kind of dingy and hospital-like and not a very warm, friendly environment,
Right.
and people really dread going to that image of a nursing home, and yet we have skilled nursing facilities now that are a whole different animal. So talk about
Correct.
what's changed in the field of long-term care.
A lot has changed in the field of long-term care in the past, I would say 10 years. We are trying to move from a medical model to a person-directed care model, which basically means that the resident is the one who is given much more, obviously everything's under a physician supervision, but within that framework, the resident is able to have much more choice over their life and their lifestyle, because we at Windsor Healthcare believe that it's just another phase of life, aging, and just as when you were a teenager you wanted certain things, and when you were middle-aged you wanted certain things, well, when you are older you want still certain things, and you ought to be able to have what you want and do what you want to your ability. So
how does that play out? How do you think that's different from a patient's perspective?
Well, a patient generally is there for short-term rehab, and they come in, they do their 2, 3, 4-week stint, and they go back home. Someone who is staying, however, in long-term care, who would be more commonly referred to as a resident, is there for a much longer period of time. Some do leave, and some that is their home for the future. And we think it's very important for them to have the choices. For example, what newspapers do they want to read in the morning? Dining choices. We do steam tables, things like that. We try to really...
so it's not just a tray that's brought to your
Right,
room. You can
exactly.
choose the chicken or the fish or the pasta at dinner. Is
right.
that the kind of thing
Yes,
you mean?
there
Or
are
if
much
you
more
have,
fine dining.
What about, let's say, some cultural or ethnic differences? I know that the population of
Yes.
Chinese residents and Russian residents in our community has grown. So if we're seeing it in the community,
Right.
I'm sure you're seeing it in long-term care too. Or South Asian. So if a
Right.
person enters the facility and is East Asian or South Asian and they're used to a certain type of food, are you able to accommodate that?
We are. At actually 2 of our facilities, we have Korean units. So we do create specialty units if the community needs it, absolutely. And we try within as much as possible to accommodate any diets.
Do you see some of that happening here at Merwick?
We are not, I mean, I'm not yet in the community long enough to know. Ryan has been the administrator
Right.
at Merwick for a while, so he knows more of the population.
Yeah, well, we do see an increase in some of those populations, and in fact, even amongst the employee profiles.
Sure.
So in some senses, they're kind of changing together. So we have employees that are translators for us. We have physicians that are, of other ethnic origins. So it's actually a relatively easy transition for us. If somebody asks for something specific, whether that be a religious ceremony, etc., we're able to accommodate that. We do not practice any particular religion. We have 5 or 6 different people that are coming in. Food is not an issue. We can try to accommodate their specific need.
I'm hearing the food is great. I've been getting feedback from people that we know that are
Wonderful.
in the new facility that the food is one of the highlights.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's neat. We can serve in several different areas of the facility. In the old days, everybody ate in one common room or their room, and that was it. But we have several locations you can eat. If you choose to eat in your room, that's fine. But if you want to go into a private dining area, we have a private dining area. In a couple of weeks, we're going to begin service that will include waiters and waitresses in some of those larger dining rooms from a steam table. So you'll choose what you want. Waiter will do it just like you would expect if you were in the community.
That's great.
It's neat.
Let's talk a little bit about the facility itself, because I think one of the biggest changes that people are experiencing is that the old Merwick still had that feel of the old residence that it used to be, and was small, and some would say intimate, some would say crowded, some would say familiar, some would say shabby. I mean, I've heard the range, but you have this brand new, larger facility. You have a much greater capacity, right?
Substantially greater. That will include, for example, comparison to the old Merwick, it was 93 beds. We have capacity for 200 beds, and we are gradually increasing as we speak. We also have on site, in several months, I anticipate a dialysis center on site. We have it under construction. So it's much, much larger. And then, of course, that comes with many more services that are available. We have movie theaters on site. We have concierge service on site. So there are just a number of things that we, just because of space limitations and because of building limitations, we could never do, but now we can.
That's great. It's also my sense that, and from having toured, that there are now 2 separate wings, whereas the old Merwick was divided by floor, that you now have a skilled nursing wing and a rehab wing. Can you talk a little bit, for people who might not be that familiar with it, about what's the difference between rehab and skilled nursing, and what's the difference, let's add in there, the difference between acute rehab and subacute rehab? Because I think that a lot of people just don't know. You go into the hospital, the doctor says, I think you should go to rehab, and somehow people sort of don't understand the difference between rehab and skilled nursing, and they feel like they're going into skilled nursing and they're never getting out again.
Yeah, that's not the case at all. Basically, subacute is just like I said, a short-term rehab program. You go in, let's say you have a hip replaced or a knee replaced or a stroke, and you need to have certain rehabilitative programs and intensive therapies in order to get you back up to back up and into the community. So at Merwick, we have a 3,500 square foot, a beautiful gym, open air, big glass windows, and really
huge
all this
glass windows,
huge,
lots of light,
lots of light and air, and modern and really up to date. We have the capacity to do certain therapies that you wouldn't be able to in a small gym. Occupational therapists and speech therapists, and of course physical therapists. And for the long term, the skilled nursing care, there is also another gym there as well, rehab gym.
So let me, before I move on, because I want to talk about the OT room, which I found very exciting, talk about the difference between acute rehab and subacute rehab.
Well, I used to at the one time I was responsible for the acute rehab department in the hospital,
And that is still at the hospital?
that is still in the hospital, yeah, and it is more or less, it's like a med-surg unit. It's another type of unit. What they typically do is deal with very specific diagnoses. So, for example, a traumatic brain injury would be a specific, and the services that they can offer would be very specific to that type of patient. We would normally deal with that type. They would need therapy, but a specialized type of a therapy.
My sense is it's sort of a transition also that let's say you've just had surgery for the traumatic brain injury. We've just seen this in the national news. You then don't need to be in the hospital necessarily, but you need much more medical attention and medical care for a while. And that's when you would stay in the acute rehab, right?
Correct.
And then
each
when you
case is
don't
sort
have
of-
those medical
yeah.
needs as much, and you're really beginning to shift focus to the rehab and rebuilding the skills, whether it's the skill to walk or talk or
Well,
whatever,
each case
then
is reviewed,
that-
individually to determine what you're capable of doing and what we would project. One of the significant criteria in the acute rehab is that you're able to maintain 3 hours of therapy a day. So that's a pretty significant divider. And when we're talking subacute, we're more into 2 hours a day, and we can split this up over periods of time through the day, over a period of upwards of 7 days. So with a person that may not necessarily be able to tolerate that level in an acute rehab, then we would possibly start with them first.
Oh, okay.
So it's and we do take a more young population too. It's not as if we only specialize in geriatrics.
Right,
older.
that's an
So
important
I've
point.
got plenty of people that are my age that are having a knee replacement or hip replacement, or have been in a hospital for a period of time where they're just debilitated. It's just need some exercise really to get them going again. Our goal is to get people back home.
So let's move on and talk about the occupational therapy, because I found that when you gave me the tour, I found it really interesting to see what you're doing with that occupational therapy part. I think a lot of people are more familiar with physical therapy and needing to get their muscles back in shape, but your OT and the way that the OT works with the family as well as with the resident.
Well, there are a couple of components to it. The first component is that we actually have a kitchen set up in both of our therapies units that allow for you to relearn or to show us how to use a washing machine, a dryer, dishwasher, etc., and do that safely. Once we've kind of finished up with that and we're getting to the tail end, we would put you into the ADL suite, Activities of Daily Living suite. And there is where, possibly with a spouse, you would sleep over for the night and actually show us, are you able to do this safely, or do you need more time? So it's really a combination of both. But I mean, we literally will be cooking a meal with somebody. If that's what you need to function at home, then we will be training you or retraining you to do that again.
The way that I see it, that fits together with what we do so much, because we're supporting people who are living independently in the community. When a person ends up in the hospital or has surgery, they need to have those skills built back to the point where they can return home and safely do those things again, whether it's with adaptations or back up to what they were able to do before. But we don't want someone coming home who can't prepare a meal for themselves.
Or can't do it safely.
Right, unless the part of the plan is to have someone come in and prepare those meals.
Correct.
So, I think that focus in rehab is so critical that, again, it's not that next step down a one-directional path.
Susan, this actually transcends even into other, because we do a lot of things besides just therapy. From a clinical standpoint, for example, with those that would be having congestive heart failure, we would extend that so that they're actually receiving training at the tail end of their time with us, so that when they go home, they would be on a telemonitoring setup, so that vital statistics they would have would be sent directly to their physician, so that to prevent them from having to come back to the facility or even a hospital. The goal is nobody really wants to go to the hospital, so we try to limit that as best as possible, either returning to them or returning to us. So that approach of trying to get people to be at home as much as possible extends to therapy, but also to our clinical areas as well.
And I know there's a lot of emphasis these days, including in the healthcare bill, to reduce the readmissions to the hospital. So we're all working to try to help people recover and function at a higher level.
Absolutely. absolutely. Keep those costs down.
Yeah. So, Bathsheba, how do you see things as different? What are some of the things that excite you most about this facility? And
Well, obviously, it's physically beautiful. It's state-of-the-art, clean, modern, high ceilings, beautiful windows, light coming from every direction on the banks of the Millstone River. We're adjacent to what will be a 32-acre public park, where they will have, walking trails and all sorts of amazing things that the public and, of course, our residents can utilize.
so if you talk about patient-directed care again, if the patient says, I want to go out for a walk, do you just say, there's the door, go for a walk?
Well,
Do you-
within supervision, depending on their ability, of course, depending on what they can do, absolutely, why not? And we're looking forward to investigating other uses for the outdoor spaces as well, gardens and, therapy gardens and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because I know that it can, oftentimes it seems that staff are responsible for more than one person, so you can't take
Right.
Joe for a walk if you have to also take care of Charlie and Fred and
Right. Well, at Windsor Healthcare, basically, we try to have more one-on-one staffing, whereas someone has direct responsibility for an individual, so that there's not a lot of turnover constantly within the staff. So you really get to know your caregiver, and this creates, a relationship. You really get to know what they like to do, and you can enable that to happen more readily.
Sounds great. On the tour also, you showed me some of the ways that the rooms are different. I think more of the rooms are private rooms, and they're all private on the rehab side, right?
No.
Almost?
Well,
Many
on
of them
the
are.
in the subacute portion, the majority, approximately 80% or so,
80.
are private, and many on the long-term
Okay.
care side as well. When the design was taken into consideration as to what would be done, it was simply what will people want, what is the expectation, and these days when people come in for their knee replacement and are 55 years old, they want to use their computer, so they want Wi-Fi. We have Wi-Fi. They want to remain in the context of the community, and they have visitors, et cetera, so we facilitate that. We have a concierge that's full-time, 7 days a week, that comes to visit you. What are your needs? What do you want? How can I help you? If you have some out-of-town people coming visit, what hotel would they like? We'll make the arrangements. So we can be very specific to your individual needs.
We have a family room, we have family dining rooms, there are desks in the rooms for you to continue working while you're there. Really, every effort was made to, make sure your stay was very pleasant.
That's great. What about on the residents on the skilled nursing side? What would you say is different about the residents' experience since they've moved?
Well, since even the semi-private rooms are much more private-like, there's a full wall down the center, so that while you are in a semi-private room, you have that total sense of privacy. You're just basically sharing a bathroom and a common hallway down the center. So that's very unique. I think in most nursing homes they don't have anything like that. There's just a greater range of activities and things to do, and more smaller units so that they can interact with one another more easily, more sitting areas, spaces to hang out.
What kind of feedback are you getting from families about the
Well, the
The
food,
differences.
100%. They love the food. They actually are eating the food. Occasionally, you buy a tray, so they're happy with the service. So and as you if you don't know, one of the major complaints in any facility is food. I don't get complaints about food because it's good. In fact, I eat it every day for lunch. So very happy, good feedback, and we haven't even finished all of the things that we're going to do. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, we're doing things on a rollout basis every month, a little bit different. But everything's great with that, no issues. It's provided by a group called Pinnacle, and we've chosen a level of service from them.
What's provided by Pinnacle?
Pinnacle is they're
The
our
dietary.
our dietary
dietary,
folks, right?
okay.
And we've chosen within their package a level of service which is well, exceptional.
We've really worked very carefully on the menus, taking into account what was offered, what went well, what the community wants and needs. And so we've developed actually menus with them.
What are some of the kinds of activities that are offered for people who are in residence?
Well, I'll give you an example of when it kind of starts. In a traditional facility, nursing home, you get a paper calendar. Our calendar is given out on paper, but we extend that to, we have a public channel. Everybody has a plasma TV, a large plasma TV, 42-inch, that's in each individual room, and we actually put that calendar out. And yesterday I was learning that what some of the residents are doing is they were actually using that instead of our paper calendar and choosing what they would like to attend. But as far as what they'd like to attend, we've expanded those services to include a variety of things like pet therapy. We have a harpist that comes in once or twice a week and goes through the hallways and provides that. We do the traditional things like bingo, etc. But we have so many different places to go and so many different things to do. We've expanded, that department so that we have additional staff. But we can go beyond. I believe that ultimately you can only do so much inside. So we have a facility van. It's a 12-passenger, 2-wheelchair accessible van, full-time driver, 7 days a week. So if you want to go to the Walmart, you're going. If you want to go out to the Barnes & Nobles, we're taking you. And people want that.
Right.
There's a movie theater also on site, so there are
Right.
movies played on a regular basis. And I'd like to add that the channel that they have is amazing. In one of our other facilities, we also have, in several of our facilities, we have channels. And in one facility in particular, they actually have a morning show by the residents of the news, and they're looking to expand into different type of activities. We have a traveling drama club and a traveling choir in some of the other facilities. So we really try to interact as much as we can with the community to keep up that socialization.
That's great. Well, I think that to me is one of the most significant things that we've talked about in terms of a real difference from that old image of a skilled nursing or nursing home facility is the ability for people to get out, whether it's to walk in the park or to go shopping, that they're not just indoors all the time. And again, that we're all looking for quality of life, right? We're looking for engaging people to the fullest of their ability all the way through the lifespan.
Correct. I think it's very important to realize that a lot of our residents are very active people in the communities. They've professors and doctors and lawyers and nurses and, from all areas. So why would they just stop?
Right.
You have to encourage and try to expand as much as they're able to do and keep everyone active.
Well, I think it's one of those things that we should probably keep talking about too, because the Senior Resource Center serves the entire area. So the fact that you're now on the other side of Route 1 doesn't preclude your residents from coming to anything that we do. So when we have special lectures or programs or anything that you feel that a resident would want to be involved in, then we'd love to see you. So.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to offer Merwick for any thing that you need. If you need a room or a lecture area, we would love to have that as well.
Great. Ryan, tell me more about the dialysis unit that you mentioned a few minutes ago, because it's my sense that that's something, again, which is different, that may be a trend towards the future. But I know people in my own family and in the clients that I've worked with where that was a real barrier, that they, my husband's aunt was in a memory care skilled nursing facility, and then his uncle had an abdominal aneurysm and went through the hospital and then was discharged. But because he ended up with kidney failure out of that, he needed dialysis. Yes. And that precluded his going and being in the same facility that she was in. And it was, I think, one of the most excruciating parts for him was the transport between his skilled nursing and then assisted living and the dialysis. So I'm intrigued by this idea of having it connected.
Well, it's a relatively unique idea, and very, very few facilities in the United States have made this connection between the two. What it means from a practical standpoint is precisely what you've said, that instead of me taking you and bundling you and getting you into an ambulance, I can take you right down the hallway.
Yeah.
It also means that if I can get you back home, you can continue on an outpatient basis in that dialysis center. And let's not forget that the hospital soon will be right across the street from us, which is a great resource in terms of getting you to that acute care level if you need it right away.
So a lot of those things that people are getting at home as an outpatient, whether it be chemotherapy or dialysis or whatever, are now either down a hallway or across the road.
Absolutely. It's a continuum of care, which is the thinking, the new age thinking, which is that why do I have to go to 10 different places? Why don't I just go to one community, one location? And that is the ultimate goal.
Right. So part of what we have to do is help people get easily from here to there.
Yes.
Yes.
So, you also mentioned short-term care. Can we talk some about your short-term care services or other services that you offer that we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, because it's concierge, the sky's the limit. What do you want to do? It's open to what you want. That's really what it's all about. What does that person want? And we can hopefully provide it.
I mean, do you ever think when you go in the hospital you might want a hoagie or a pizza? I mean, assuming you're allowed to have it.
Able to,
right.
yes.
So the answer is, how do you get it? Well,
Right.
most people just give it up. And, you know, from people that are there for 2 or 3, 4 months or for many years, asking them the questions last time that they had a Chinese meal in a restaurant, going, when was that? It could have been, I haven't had a pizza in years. So why is it that when you come into that facility, all of a sudden, pizza's done?
Right.
I wouldn't come then.
Right.
We provide that for you. We get those things for you. So whether you're there for a week or you're there for 6 years, doesn't make any difference. We're going to try and get you what you want.
Yes.
I just heard today that someone was going to, was planning to visit their loved one in a skilled nursing facility and taking pizza for Valentine's Day. So
There you go.
We want to make it a
that's-
common event, not a rare event.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
In,
we
in,
really do.
in the other facilities, we have regular outings to restaurants. Why should that have to discontinue?
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're able to, and you should.
That's great. So it really sounds like sort of extending that continuum of life, that you're trying to help people continue what they know as their normal life
Correct.
as much as possible, while they need to be in a different kind of level of care,
Right.
when they can no longer be independent at home, or while they're temporarily recovering from something, but to continue those things that are familiar to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
To
Makes a lot
maintain
of
and
sense.
continue life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that when we come back to that original question of what's different,
Everything.
it's that philosophy that,
Yes.
that really makes a difference. So
The only thing that's not different is our great staff. I'll tell you, and I must say that they are. Well, you know many of them, and you've seen many of
Yeah.
them. Many of them have been with the hospital system for 15 or 20 years, and they continued. Almost every single person came with us to this new facility, and I'll tell you, there's some great people over there. And when it really comes down to it, that's what it's about.
right.
You know, so in the middle of the night, when that person's at your bedside, that's who you want to be at your bedside, who's holding your hand.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
So we were
It's
really
all about
committed
the
to this.
care.
It's
It is.
about those people providing it.
Thank you so much to both of you for joining me
Thank you for
today. I
having
hope
us.
this has helped our community to understand some of those trends in long-term care and the things that you're doing at that new Merwick facility. So thank you
for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.